uh, maximum subsequence problem, and we looked at that the default way or natural way of solving it can be done in order n cube, and then we made certain observations using which we could reduce the time complexity from n cube to n square, and from n square to n, and that was considerable change in the time complexity. So that also gave us an idea that if you have to uh, look at the algorithmic aspects more carefully and exploit certain properties of the algorithm or the problem, then you might be able to come up with better algorithm. Right. So what today we are going to look at is to kind of wrap up our discussion on time complexity, and for that we need to look at one of the important problems that will also give us a way to get into our first data structure, which is arrays. Right. So maximum subsequent sum, that was also one of the examples of uh, array as a data structure, but we didn't do really anything with it as such. But nevertheless, it's a good example of array-based data structures. Similarly, we'll see that today also, right? So if I have a book and I ask you to go to page number 44, right? So the way to do it is definitely not what we, I mean, we don't directly go from page number 1, then page number 2, page number 3, right? So we open it up at some page, and depending upon what page number we are in, we go to appropriate page number before or after. So this way of searching for a page number works because, can somebody suggest? This way where I go to any page number, and based on whether the page number 44 is below that page number or above that page number, we can again go to appropriate portions, right? So this kind of works because what? Right. So there are suggestions. Kaushik says all pages are in ascending order. Saicharan says page numbers are sorted. Srivatsava says sorted. Okay, great. Right. So these are all sorted. That is, they are all in ascending or descending sequence. In this case, ascending, increasing sequence, and therefore we are able to apply such a processing that you are able to go to a particular page number by looking at where you are. Right. In contrast, think about it as let's say that students are sitting in a class, right? And I ask you, okay, find out the roll number 22 in the class, right? So assuming that it's the class from the same batch, and I have to identify a student with roll number 22 or 44, that becomes difficult because, I mean, of course I can ask, and that becomes probably an easier way. But if I have to find it out, let's say students are sitting inside an exam and I'm not allowed to ask a question, then I have to go around and ask or check everybody's, let's say, iCard, or ask everybody, and from there figure out that what is the roll number 44. So that definitely that is going to be what you say is linear search, right? So you have to go through each person until you find that number, that roll number, right? So in that case, the students are sitting in an unsorted order, or need not be in ascending or descending order. They are sitting in a random order, and therefore we cannot apply such an algorithm. In contrast, think about the case where probably in 10th or 12th standard, you used to sit in the exam halls in sorted order of your numbers, right? So there, again, such a processing is going to be useful. I think there is some noise from somebody. Okay. So that thing is going to work only if the elements are sorted, right? So by default, searching in a linear array, that is going to be, I think, Kota Tapasvi, could you please mute yourself? Thank you. So that is going to be order n by default, but if we apply this sorted page number technique, then we can possibly do better. I don't really go over order n number of elements, right? So why do we say that in linear array we might require order n time? Although it's possible that I might reach roll number 44 in when it is unsorted, I need not require n number of checks, right? So I might not go to n number of students, I might not compare n number of roll numbers, right, in an unsorted array. But still I say that it is order n. Why is that? Sometimes I might just require one, so the first, I might be lucky and the first student might be roll number 44, whereas 10th roll number might be roll number 44 or whatever. But why do I still say that it is order n? Any suggestions? Why complexity of searching in an unsorted array takes linear time? Okay, there are some suggestions. Worst case, yes. Vigo considers worst case complexity. Yes, in the worst case, it is possible that I might require n number of checks in the array, and therefore I will say that the complexity is going to be big O of n. Good. So that's kind of a recall of what we did. So let's try to identify what we do in this sorted array, right? So we can possibly do better. We don't know yet. So although it looks like performance-wise we'll be able to gain if it is sorted, because we can go to, okay, roll number 1, okay, this person is roll number, first one is roll number 1, then I go to a random number, okay, this is roll number 50, okay, so I know that it is between 1 and 50, right? So I should not go beyond 50, right? So this is something which seems logical, but does it reduce the time complexity? It will definitely reduce the absolute running time. It will definitely reduce the absolute running time, that we can see intuitively. But does it reduce the complexity? That is something which we have to identify by modeling it as an equation, finding out if the time complexity turns out to be order n or lesser than that. Okay. So what we are doing in this case is that we can cut the search space by half at every step. What that means is that if you have 100 pages and I want to go to 44th page, I look at first and 100th page, right? So that I know somehow, not somehow, by looking at it, actually the first page is 1, the last page is 100, and therefore I go to now a middle page, which is, let's say, page number 50, and from there I know that I have to go to the left, right? So I discard 51 to 100 right away after making that check at 50. Once I am now at 1 to 50 and I want to go to page number 44, I still can repeat this procedure in a let's say either iterative manner or recursive manner in a programming context. But in general, I can go to, let's say, page number even 25, middle of 1 and 50, and so on. And then I know that 25 to 50 is the range that I need to look at. I can cut 1 to 24 as the space where this number cannot exist, right? So that is how one way is to look at this way of searching, right? So we cut the search space by half at every step, right? So that is the important point in this case. Technically speaking, I mean, if you think about it properly, this is not really the algorithm that humans use, right? Although it looks similar, but definitely after you are at 50, you are unlikely to open the page number 24 or 25, right? So you are probably going to maybe just flip the pages from 50 to 44, or even if you have to go to 44, you will not come at the middle. Maybe you will open a page which will be probably 40, right? So it also depends upon how far away you are from the search key in this case, let's say searching page, and depending upon that you might decide where you open the next page. But what we are currently doing is cutting only by half, search space by half at every step, right? So if you have this algorithm, this array, and I want to search for, let's say, some number, then I can come in the middle and then search for, I can look for page number 44. I know that it is on the right hand side, so I just discard 5, 7, 8, 20 and 23 right away after right? So this kind of search is called as, of course, binary search. You are cutting the space by half, therefore this is called as a binary search. Any questions on this part so far? All right. So let's try to identify what will be the complexity of such an algorithm. Right. So now we understand the algorithm since you did not ask any questions. So assuming that we do, how will you model the time complexity of such an algorithm? Any suggestions? So I'm not worried about what the complexity is finally, but I'm concerned about how do you model it as an equation, the way we did probably for some examples earlier. Any suggestions? And by the time you answer, I'll probably try opening up the code maybe. Okay, there are some suggestions coming up. 2 to the power n, that's a good guess. Dhilipkumar says find worst case possibility. Right, but how do you model that worst case? Kaustubh says Tn equal to C plus Tn by 2. Okay, so let's understand this 2 to the power n. Um, so Santosh or Santosh Sriram, we are going to require order n time if you just do linear search. Right? I check each element. Right? Even if it is sorted, I can do that. And that is going to require me order n time. In fact, exactly n number of comparisons. If I do this linear search, will I require less time or more time compared to linear search? Less time. And if the complexity is turning out to be 2 to the power n, that is greater than order n or smaller than order. Again, I mean, there is no need to guess, Kaushik and Dhruv. We are trying to formulate how the complexity arithmetic, how the complexity equation is going to coming out. So what do you think, Sriram? Greater than order n, right? 2 to the power n is greater than n, right? Which means in general, order 2 to the power n, which is exponential, is definitely going to be larger than order n linear time. But our intuition says that we are going to require smaller time for the binary search, and therefore our complexity should turn out to be at max order n, maybe lower than order n, but at max order n, right? So definitely it should not be order 2 to the power n. Okay, good. So let's see what we are doing. So if you are trying to reduce the search space by half, right, and how many comparisons are you making to decide that? Initially you might require the endpoints, but ignore those as constants. Those are two additional ones. But once you are at a particular stage, you are going to make one comparison and you are going to decide whether to go this way or the other, which means that you are doing constant time operation to decide to reduce the search space from n to n by 2. So you are doing constant time operation and reducing the search space from n to n by 2. And similarly, you will do a constant time operation to reduce the search space from n by 2 to n by 4 and so on. And therefore, the complexity equation turns out to be what was suggested by Kaustubh, T of n equal to some constant time operation, that is your comparison, one comparison or a couple of comparisons, doesn't matter, plus T of n by 2, right? If you have not understood how we derived this, please ask at this stage. Okay, so Okay, Mrityunjay is saying what is the significance of C? Significance of C is it's just a constant, right? Which means that you are doing some order 1 operation. There are some few instructions which are executed, which you are executing. In this case, comparison, right? Those you are executing. The important thing is that you are not doing something which is dependent on the array size. Comparing one element is not dependent on the array size, and therefore your amount of work that is being done is order of 1 or constant C. That C we are using just to make sure that we get the correct, we are able to solve that equation, but it is essentially order 1 operation. Any other suggestions, questions? Okay. So if that is the case, how do you solve this equation? Right. So now if I try to solve this, can somebody tell me what will be the next step of solving this equation? Naimisha says, define a mid equal to L plus R minus L by 2. R and L are the limits. Yes, we are getting into probably an implementation aspect. Yes, we'll come to that, Naimisha, soon. But given this equation that Kaustubh has given us, how do we solve this equation? What should be the next step? We did that some time back. So think about this as your classwork. Okay. So Srivatsava says expand the recursion till we reach base case. Yes. Abhishek says T of n equal to nc plus T of n upon 2 to the power n. Okay, this is a little tricky, but I'll come to that. Kaushik says T of n by 2 equal to T of n by 4 plus C. We can recursively write it in this manner. Yes. Yeah, so Abhishek, what you have done is on the right lines, but you have to be a little careful about the usage of that n. It's not that we are going to do this n number of times, and in fact we should do it with a different variable rather than n, because otherwise it can become little confusing, as well as it can give you a wrong result actually. So T of n equal to nc plus T of n upon 2 to the power n. This is correct provided you are saying that this n and this n 2 to the power this, these are different than the n that you are using in this, right? So this we have to be a little more careful, right? So okay, so I think okay, let me just write it in our file itself, right? So we are going to look at this code, but let me write it here, right? So we said that T of n equal to C plus T of n by 2. Right? This I can just apply again and say that T plus, and then I get something in the, for T of n by 2 I am going to write it in the same manner. So if I continue doing that, then I can say that this is going to be 2c plus T of n upon 2 to the power 2. I'm just using that notion of caret, that is 2 to the power 2. So the next one is going to be 3c plus T of n upon 2 to the power 3. And in general, you can say that there is going to be k. I'm going to use k rather than n here, because those number of steps might not be same as the input size n. So I better be careful. It might turn out to be same. It might turn out to be same, but let me derive that. And therefore, I'm going to keep this distinction for now. And this is the complexity equation that I get. And what is the base case? Base case is when there is only one element left, right? So there you don't have to do binary search, you just compare that element, which means that if there is a single element remaining, then I just require some constant number of operation, which I'm denoting as 1 or C2, something like that, right? So that you can do. So if I have to substitute this, then I have to say that n equals 2 to the power k. Why am I interested in this value? Because I want this to be the base case finally, right? Because I want to solve it. So I have, so this is called as inductive step, and this is the base case or base step, right? So this I have to come to, because then I'll be able to substitute here 2 to the power k is same as n, and therefore k is same as log n to the base 2, and t of 1 is going to become 1, and therefore I can say when this is the case, at that time t of n equal to c into log n to the base 2 plus 1. That 1 is essentially C2. And since we ignore the additive constant, in this case, if I had written this C2, right? So C2 becomes the additive constant to T of n, and C becomes the multiplicative constant to log n. And since we can ignore all of this, we can say that T of n is order of log n to the base 2, but doesn't matter. I mean, in this case, that is how it is going to. So some of you have precisely captured this in your equations, for example, Kaushik, then Saicharan, and you'll be able to get the complexity as order log n, right? So this is a mechanical procedure. There is nothing involved in this. It's just that this is just one way of solving this. There are other ways in which you can find out the time complexity. I mean, more of this is going to be taught in the algorithms course. We are not going to look at it very carefully. But this is just one way in which you can find out the complexity of binary search. Now, what does that mean? The binary search complexity is order log n. Is that good or is that not good? Okay. So, as you guys are suggesting, it is going to be definitely better than linear search. But it should be better, since we are talking about order complexity. We can say that it is going to be better after you have a sufficiently sized array. If you just take, okay, 3-element array and my linear search is performing better, it's taking 0.0001 milliseconds, whereas my binary search is actually doing more computation, it is doing 0.002 milliseconds, right? So that doesn't seem to be a reasonable comparison. You need to have a very large array, and then you can plot also how the time is being taken, right? For example, in the 3 examples that we took, the subsequent sum, 3 complexities, it might be worth just run this algorithm for a larger array, right? I have taken a very small array to illustrate, but you can just increase that size to a very large number. You can actually take it from, you can generate random numbers using some random number generator and so on. So you can try that and see if the complexity turns out to be, how does the time complexity change as you increase n, right? And you will see that the 3 algorithms, you will see exactly different plots as we had seen in one of the slides. All right, so any questions on this time complexity arithmetic? Otherwise, we will look at the code. Okay, so Naimisha had already given us some heads up, right? So she had suggested that mid equal to L plus, that is the low or the left, plus R minus L by 2, and that is going to give you a value which is going to be starting from the left, whatever is the current left, and right, exactly in the middle of that, right? So there you will get some element, and that should be our value. I'm going to probably just use R plus L by 2, and that will probably suffice in our purpose. But otherwise the concept is the same, right? So let's look at this one. Okay. So we have an array, again similar to earlier, its size is determined, and then I'm going to just call B search of, in that array of size n, I'm searching for the element 100, and then I'm also searching in the same array of size n element 9, right? So 100 is present and 9 is not present, and therefore I should get different answers. So what are the answers that this B search returns? It returns 0 if the element is not found, otherwise it returns 1, right? So I should get the answer as 1 0 for this program, right? How do I code this up? So these are the three arguments that we know of. This is the value that we are searching, or the key. I'm going to define the low value and the high value, or the left value and right value, as in Naimisha's case. And while my low value is less, because I'm changing my search space, right? So that search space initially is from 0 to n minus 1, right? So that is what is defined as the initial values, and that search space goes on changing. So I'm going to tell that always search within low and high, right, within these bounds. So as long as low is less than equal to high, I can go ahead and go on processing this. What is the processing? I compute the middle value either in this manner or the way Naimisha has suggested, low plus high by 2. And then there are three conditions. What are the three conditions? If the value at that middle location, at that middle index, note that low and high are indices, those are not values. So therefore I need to check the value at that index. So mid is also an index. Therefore the value at mid, if it is same as the val, that is the key I am searching, then I return 1. So I have found out the roll number that I was searching for, and I just return from here, and that is what will get printed for 100, right, at some point in time. Otherwise, if a of mid, that is the current value, is going to be greater than the value that I am searching for, right? So if in the middle, let's say the middle number is 44, right, and I am searching for 100. If the a of mid, okay, that should not be the case. Okay, let's say that we are searching for 9. I think that will be better. If a of mid, which is 44, is greater than the key, which is 9, so this condition is true, therefore I am going to now search between only this portion, and I am going to discard all the values 52 onwards, right? In fact, I don't need to really worry about this end. Do I need to worry about the end? Yeah, since I have already checked for mid, I don't need to worry about this 44. I can discard 44 also and search within this space, and therefore I'll say that the end of the next search should be high equal to mid minus 1. So I'm going to search from low to mid minus 1, right, because I'm searching for 9. In contrast, if I was searching for 100, then at 44 I'm going to say that now keep high as 10,000, that is the index at 10,000, but change the low from whatever it was, which was pointing at 4, to mid plus 1, which means that the value next to the mid, and that is going to allow me to search in this half rather than the initial. So that is how the search is going to be. For 100, again, the next element that you might search might turn out to be 100, and therefore you will reach this case, because now the low and high are changing, and you go on doing it until you find the number or until you hit this condition. I mean, negation of this condition. For example, what will happen for searching for 9 is that I'm going to search within this space, right? Then I'm going to probably look for this as the mid, new mid, because low is going to be 0, high is going to be 4. So their value is going to be 2, which is this number 8 at index 2. At this stage, I'm going to say that it is greater than this. So I'm going to change low to point to 10. So I'm going to search within this space. When I do mid calculation, I'm going to hit this value, right? And it should be lower than this 10 value, and therefore I'll say, so the low is already at 3, which is pointing at 10, and therefore high is going to be changed to mid minus 1, which is going to become 2, right? So low is going to be 3, and high is going to be 2, which is going to be falsifying this condition, and therefore I'll come out of the loop and mentioning that it is going to return 0, that is 9 is not present in this. Right? So any suggestions, questions on something has not been understood and you want any explanation further here? Okay. So if there are no further questions, I'm going to ask. Yeah, Murari, go ahead.
Sir, if the value is the low itself or the high itself, then it will take the highest amount of time. Can't we check in a loop every time if the low index is the value and then return, it will be better, right?
That's a good idea. So what, yeah, Naimisha also has the same question. Yes. So looks like that there are some end cases for this algorithm, and you have found it out very correctly that if it is, let's say, the leftmost element or the rightmost element, or then what is going to happen is you are going to slowly come to that place, right? So you will divide by half, then 1/4, then 1/8, 1/16, and so on. Finally, you will reach that value. So that seems to be a little problematic. So can't we do better? What we could do is that we can as well check for the low as well as high, and that will give us a better performance, right? What are the suggestions? Will that help? Will that not help? Any suggestions? Saicharan said, if we do that, we'll have new worst cases. Okay. Ashwin says you could say the same about element number 2, last -1, and so on. So yeah, so these are important observations. So what is going to happen is that as soon as you search for these extra elements, one thing is that you can always find a new element which is going to be requiring those many searches. Those many meaning order login. So that is one, as Saicharan has suggested, or Ashwin Krishna has suggested. But there is another part to it. The second part is now you are increasing the C that we had written here, right? So this C was the constant amount of work that we are doing. Earlier we were doing one comparison. Now you will probably be doing 3 comparisons. So this constant will remain the same, but the constant will increase, which will keep the complexity same. The time complexity function will still remain order login, but the execution time will depend. Now for some elements, since you are probably finding them sooner, you will reduce the absolute execution time, and for some others you might increase the absolute execution time because you are doing more comparisons for the elements which were not present. Now you have to balance it out, and there is no one answer to this. This needs to be tried out because this is empirical. And but the important part is that the order will remain the same. So that's a very good point. So yes, you can do this, and you can try running this algorithm by making these changes. Complexity will remain the same, but the absolute performance might differ. Yes, Adish says order will be the same, but C will be more correct. Saicharan, is there a way to replicate what humans do? Yes, there is a way to replicate what humans do. For example, instead of dividing it by 2 all the time, what you need to do is to look at the value at, so here we are just saying low plus high by 2. We are just looking at low plus high indices. Instead, look at A of low and A of high and A of mid. Let me put it this way, that look at A of low, A of high, and the key that you are searching, that is the value you are searching, and depending upon that you divide it appropriately. You don't always divide it by 2, but divide it in proportion to the value, which is going to be probably so if you put a scale from low to high, where that value is appearing, is it appearing very close to low or very close to high or somewhere in between, and so on. And based on this scale we will have to divide it, not always divide by 2, right? That will be much faster. In fact, to some extent, you can think about it as a Newton's method, right? So we have studied that you put a tangent, and based on how the curve is going, and the tangent is going to tell you how much you should do for the next, and that is going to tell you that information is going to be obtained by the diff between the two elements, right? The consecutive elements, that is the differentiation at that point, and that is going to tell you what should be your next guess. And exactly similar process we can possibly use in this case. That's a good thought. Saicharan, does that make sense? Okay. Adish says, but that can work only if the elements of the array increase by the same amount. Elements might not be uniformly arranged. Yes, that is correct. But it will still work better than your current algorithm, because even if you make a wrong guess now, you are likely to make a correct guess at a certain point in time, right? So if these are non-uniformly distributed, you will still make faster jumps to reach there, right? So in fact, my guess is that I'm not sure, but it might improve the complexity beyond logN. That is, it will come below logN also. That is my guess, but I'm not sure. I have not done that complexity analysis. Okay, sounds good. This is a good discussion. Happy with that. Any other concerns, questions? Okay, Anish says, for any algorithm, will we be able to find a recursive relation to compute the complexity? No, that's not always the case. It's not necessary that you will always have a recursive formulation for a time complexity. Sometimes it might just be addition of different complexities, which you might already be aware. For example, there might be a for loop, which goes for n number of iterations, and then there might be another for loop, which is n into m, then another, let's say, recursive function, which is taking order of n square and so on. And then you find out the complexities of each of these together by summing these up. For example, let me just do that here. So let's say that T of n, for example, could be order of n, that is the first loop, and then order of n into m, that is the second loop, and plus order of n square. This might be the third loop, right? So in this case, there is no recursive formulation in this case, and you might just come up with this because it's all loop based. Right? This recursive formulation is coming into picture because it is easier to visualize for the binary search case. But many of, like, you have the regular loops, their complexities are very easy to find out, as we have seen in some of the earlier slides. So you just say that this is going to be order n plus order mn plus order n square. What will be the overall complexity? So you can ignore order n, because mn is strictly larger than n, and n square is also larger than n. What is the relationship between these two? So which one should we ignore out of this? Okay, there are some suggestions here. I'll come to that. Okay, so what should I say is the final? Depends on which is larger among m and Kaushik says. Okay, any other suggestions? If n greater than m, ignore mn. Okay, I don't think we can compare for larger m, Ashwin says. Okay, so this is going to be dependent on I think you are all on the right track, that m and n, if these are two input parameters which are non-comparable and you don't have any control over them, then you have to leave the complexity as this is. The complexity need not always be a single mn or n square 2 to the power n. It can be a larger expression like this. Right? And therefore, we will have to say that it is going to be order mn plus order n square. You can leave it as it is. Or what Murari suggests is that, can we say something like n into max of mn? Yes, that is also another way in which you can specify this. Not always this will be possible, because if I had put n cube, then something else would have happened. But in this case, you can use a max. But the more importantly, the part is that your time complexity need not always have a recursive formulation. time complexity need not be a single expression. It can be a set of order notations, right? So and you can sum them up, and you cannot compare all of them. Only if you know the relationship between m and n for all larger values of m and n, at that time you can possibly make some adjustments, but it is perfectly fine to specify this as it is. Okay, any other concerns? Okay, now that you have asked this question about this recursive formulation, let me make use of that and ask you a question. Can you change this code to a recursive? So B search function, can you write recursive? If that requires you to make changes to the arguments, that is also fine. But can somebody think about it and even paste the code in the chat box? So this is the time to take out your notebooks or do it online. Yeah, this is the time when you can touch the keyboard and write things. Don't get into WhatsApp. You have to write the B search function, right? So I want this. So currently this is not a recursive function, right? This is an iterative function. That is, we are using an iteration or loop. What I want to do is to avoid this loop and instead write it recursively. This says we can repeat it n by 2 times or n by 2 plus 1 times. Again, that repetition should come using recursion. I want you to write that up. How will you write this? Okay, Kaushik says if first condition, terminate with return 1. If second condition, B search of mid minus 1 high, else B search of low mid plus 1. That's a good way of doing this. Try all others, please try it out. Great, there are further codes written. Chotu says, okay, so L and R are the two bounds that we need to specify, right? So we cannot just do with the length of the array, right? So we need to give the bounds which cannot be computed now inside. Those need to be specified as arguments, and therefore I said that if you want to change the parameters of the function, that can also be done. So int L and int R, these are going to be two bounds, and then K is the value that you are searching, right? So that is our value. So if L less than equal to R, then we find the middle value, and the three conditions remain the same. Note that there is no loop here, right? There is a recursive call to B search and there is no loop here. This is a recursive formulation. If this is equal to K, then return M. Okay, that is the index that we are returning. That is fine. Or we can return 1. Else return whatever, whether you find it or not. That is the part when you are currently your mid value is going to be greater than the value that you are searching. Then you need to change the high, right? So the L remains the same and high becomes mid minus 1, right? So that is this part. So that seems to be reasonable. Otherwise, you change the low part to mid plus 1. Good. Otherwise, return 0 or minus 1, whatever. I think Chotu is returning the index, so it should not return 0. So it should return minus 1. That is correct. Right? Any concerns, any questions on this part, recursive formulation, or any other part that we have seen so far? All right. So I hope this is interesting for people. Saicharan says, can we always find a recursive function to replace a for loop? Is a recursive function always better than a for loop? Can you always do a, okay. So if at all, I mean, there are extreme cases where the individual loop iterations might not do something which is repetitive or has a pattern, right? So you might have a code something like this. If I equal, so you have a loop which is going over for I equal to 0 to n I less than n I plus plus, and then if I equals 0, do something, I equals 1, do something, I equals 2, do something, and so on. This is a very extreme example, but I'm just telling you, even this extreme example can be converted into a recursive form where you will have all these conditions and you will just call that function recursively. So yes, all the looping constructs can be converted into a recursive form in an extreme way also, in an extreme situation also, and vice versa. Even if you have a recursive formulation, you can convert it always into a iterative form. These are equivalent in computer science. Is a recursive function always better than a for loop? No. No. And there is no clear answer also that the loop is always going to be better than the recursive formulation. Performance-wise, typically the loops perform better compared to recursive formulations. That is because you don't, I mean, when you call a function, there is some memory that you need to set up that is on stack. So let's say function f calls function f with different parameters, that calls itself, and so on, right? So b search is calling b search, then again calling b search, and so on. So that is going to set up some stack, and that requires little bit of time. There are situations where that, so therefore that recursion in general can be a little slower. Not little slower, it can be actually substantially slower than an iterative formulation. But why do I say that then iterative is not always better? Because we are writing code for, not for always the machines, we are writing code for the humans. And therefore the readability also comes into play. Many algorithms can be very naturally modeled as recursive formulation. So in the academic setting, it's not going to matter much for your assignments and so on, which one you use, etc. But when you go to an industry, and some of you might have done internships where you need to follow certain coding standards, you need to follow very easy procedure, you need to write in comments. Comments also might have certain syntax and so on. So all of this is required because a human is going to read it, right? So you might be there for 2-3 months, and after that somebody else is going to maintain the code, or you are in an industry and you are going to change your job or change your team, and somebody else is going to look at your code, right? Or worse, you are joining the company and somebody else is going to give you the code and you have to understand it, right? So that is always very difficult to understand somebody else's code. But if somebody has written it very nicely, naturally, in an easy to understand manner, then this that is very, very important from software engineering perspective. And therefore many times people write recursive code where performance is not at stake. If performance is at stake, you should definitely try to convert it into an iterative. Okay. Any other concerns? Sure, no problem. Yeah, Harbar, thank you, mat bolo yaar. I think you can say thank you at the end of the course once. That's okay. All right. So I think we are almost in time, but let me just, okay. So this is what I wanted you to write. But yeah, this is the time complexity. That part is okay. And I'm going to leave you with some exercises at the end of chapter 2 of Visa's book. You might find those interesting. So we'll stop here unless there are any questions.
Sir, how you are taking attendance?
I'm not taking attendance. I'm believing in you that you will take enough care, that you will spend time in understanding. So many times it so happens that we get this thought, and you are by now probably accustomed to this very much. Let me just stop the recording now. So many times it so happens that we get into